Good afternoon. We have to talk about mind matters. Now, this is an amazingly phrased chapter in the sense that we need to discuss what is a mind actually. And then when we speak about matters, it could imply that something is important, that we need to care about this, or it can refer to any material something that's made up of atoms. So, in this sense, the mind is actually very important. We should care, but it's also made out of matter that we call a brain. Now, as we'll discuss this, you will see that our mind is actually possible because of our brain, but our mind controls our brain. So even knowing our mind is possible because we have a brain, our mind can actually control this brain that we have. So the end point of this chapter is that if you start watching this video clip, and we took a photo of your brain before you watch this. And after you watch this, we take another photo of your brain. Your brain is supposed to physically look different. So let's jump into this chapter. This is all the components we need to look at. What is the mind that's controlling the matter? The mind body connection, memory, how thoughts are formed, core beliefs, and renewing the mind. So before we start, I just want to bless you with this blessing. May you be encouraged to build new neurological pathways and trees of life. Okay, this is all the words you should be able to find, and also to say, but what is the practical something you take out of this chapter today, and how is it significant to your personal growth? Now, it's also true that research has shown that more than 75% of mental, physical, behavioral illnesses comes from a person's thought life. If we would use the example of someone that is struggling with flu often, why is that so? And how long do you stay sick with the flu if you do get it? And if you ask your friend, you'll notice that many times there's a different amount of days that someone stays sick. If we take the example of substance use and abuse, why is that person using or abusing that substance? So, all of us, we have a mind, and this mind has immense impact on the behaviors that we exhibit. And if we bring that to the mind that actually controls the brain, if something that's maybe we should define mind first. If we talk about mind, it's the thoughts that you're having, it's this voice inside of your head. So, this thought, this voice that while I'm talking, you're thinking, but this makes sense. No, this doesn't make sense. I'm wondering why is this so boring? That thoughts that you're having, if those thoughts are negative, it could have a health impact on your life, mentally, physically, or behaviorally. But also, if you have good positive thoughts, it can actually cause you to get healthier sooner than someone that has negative thoughts. Okay. So when we talk about this chapter, there's a couple of authors that comes to mind very easily. One of them is Caroline Leaf, and she wrote a book where she said, but we are actually wired for love and optimism. That's the bias that our brain has. It's the thing that this mechanical hardware, a brain, this organ, is actually more reactive to love and optimism. It loves that components. But because of a negative impact, more negative content that we've consumed, it's more difficult for our brain to actually um, to take love and optimism. So it's fighting against that. Imagine for a moment I'm standing in front of you and I'm telling you you're really special. You'll be standing there, maybe laughing at me. You might be standing there thinking, ah, whatever. Or you might be thinking, how do you know? Ah, I'm sure you tell that to everyone. So we have this bias of love and optimism that has been reversed into the other pole of negativity. So we'll talk more about this in chapter 13. So when we speak about your thoughts can actually activate genes as well, which means that the next generation might be struggling with something that you thought up. and that you meditated on, things that you um, made a habit in your life. And that is called epigenetics. So that's small thoughts and small changes that actually has an influence on the next generation or even your life later on. Now, every time we think of something and we react to something, it becomes easier to do that the next time around. So we should be careful of what is the quality of our thinking, what's the choices and the reactions that we actually make, because that can influence your brain architecture, the physical organ. Then we have this neuroplasticity, and that is something that Caroline Leaf also said. Before she came with her research, we thought that if you got brain damage, that was the end of the story. We can't do anything, it's over, it's done. But what she discovered is that we actually have neuroplasticity, meaning that if something happens like brain damage, you can actually not restore the damage, but you can get healthier in a different way because we have a lot of neurons, and every day we are born with new neurons, baby neurons, you may call it. And these neurons, brain cells, haven't been activated yet. So by using those neurons, it's possible to actually recover from the brain injury, not meaning the brain cells that's dead isn't dead anymore, meaning that the new brain cells is now carrying the old brain cells that's dead's weight. So that is what neuroplasticity means. And then, like we said with neurogenesis, it's almost like you are having new baby nerve cells that's born every day. So it's possible, and it's actually very necessary for us to focus our thoughts on things that's good for us, that's positive. And then, like you would have noticed so far, there's a mind body connection. For every thought we meditate on, that means thinking of it repetitively. There's a physical reaction in our brain and body that's happening through electrical currents traveling along the nerves in our brain and the production of various hormones and chemicals that flow throughout our entire body in response to those thoughts. Things like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, those chemicals that's actually influencing the whole architecture of our brain. So, what we think most of our whole body, the endocrine system, like hormones, nervous system, immune system, gastrointestinal system, all of these things are being influenced by our thoughts. You'll also notice something like if you have negative thoughts, if you feel stressed and you feel you won't be able to cope with this something specific, your body reacts by actually trying to lose some of the unnecessary fluid. So yes, if you did not hear what I said, it means you have to go to the bathroom more often. Then, when we speak about memory in this regard, because of the brain cells, because it's becoming repetitive, because it's repeating itself a couple of times, the actual road to these books, remember the example we used of Helsinki, because we are doing things over and over again, that road to that information becomes thicker and thicker. It's easier to remember. Or if we add a motion to something, that road becomes as thicker as well. So if you were to sit there where you are and I would tell you, ask you to forget what a dog is, it will be impossible because that road is just too thick. You've seen a dog so many times. You might have even had a dog which you love, or maybe you had a dog that you did not love. The memory is just so thick in your brain, it's difficult to forget that. So that is in regard to memory. So the process of how thoughts work is, first of all, there's information that enters through our five senses. The information is then translated into waves. Waves are converted into electrical currents. These electrical currents, then it is processed into the information that's in a thought form now. And then we have a choice to either think about it or not to think about it. If we choose to not think about it and reject the thought, saying this is nonsense, I don't want this, then it's almost like that thought becomes like hot air and just But if we choose to think about it and we say, oh, that's interesting, then we meditate on the thought, and the thought becomes thicker and thicker and thicker until it becomes long-term memory where it's impossible to forget. So if someone in class would tell you, but there's this other student that's not nice, you hear it with your senses. It goes into waveform into your brain, electrical currents. Then we have the thought, and then we choose to meditate on it, and we say, "Oh yes, that student, definitely. They always wear these clothes, so they must not be nice." And then that thought becomes very thick, and now we start um, avoiding that student because that student means trouble, and it just becomes muscle memory, and it's difficult to move away from that. So that's pretty much how that principle would apply in this sense. Okay, there we go. And then we have core beliefs. This is one of the sad parts of the chapter where it says 75% of everything that we think is actually negative, meaning it's counterproductive. It's actually, you can say, out to get us. And this is sometimes referred to other like limiting beliefs, or it's subconscious thoughts that you don't even notice. So in chapter 5, we try to pay attention to this. What's the core thoughts, beliefs that we have? And those are usually captured between the ages of 0 and 6. So um, if you grew up in a negative environment, it was easier to be programmed in that direction. So we need to make sure that the type of self-talk we have actually improves, where we try to have more positive self-talk that's happening around us. And then also something like trauma can cause the core beliefs to go into a too extreme, like no one will ever like me, no one ever talks to me, I will never be able to make it, everyone's always against me. All of these absolute type of words. So going to very absolute content, saying my feelings don't count ever. No one cares. So we should try to be careful of thoughts like that. So because of neuroplasticity, we can actually make new healthy memories. And we do that by trying to see, but which thoughts should I try to spend most of my time on? The more time I spend on it, the better it becomes. We just have to notice that if we have very toxic thoughts, rewriting it to healthy ones could take some time. So it's estimated that to make a new habit stick, it takes 21 days or 2,500 active thinking minutes. So it takes a lot of effort to renew the mind, to rewire it into a more positive state. Okay. And that's it for that chapter. Thank you so much.